Okay, we come to a really interesting part of golf, sand play. For some reason, people get a little bit worried about sand play, but as we know, and we'll repeat again, this is the easiest shot in golf because you don't have to hit the ball. The margin for error is massive compared to the need to actually strike the ball with a specific part of the club. Not only can you take varying amounts of sand, but it can cover and come out of any part of that, and it will still find its way out of the sand. There are some people that have connotations, bunkers, traps, set off negative images. It's almost impossible for someone in the game that's been around for a while not to mention bunkers or sand traps. But generally, when we're working with beginners, you will be making every effort to make sand fun and to keep sand as that image. If you can remember back that far, sand, holidays by the sea, sand castles and all the fun. So later on in this piece of information, we're actually going to go to the beach and do some of the demonstration work on the beach, because it is a place of fun. It's a big bunker. You need a big rake to keep it nice and smooth. Let's go through some of the facts about bunkers, which will be repeated when we get onto the beach. First of all, the bounce of the club. Okay, the sand iron has been specifically made to allow the club to work through the sand. The leading edge isn't the part that hits the sand, it's the bounce that hits the sand. So some knowledge is going to have to be given to the client that this is the part that engages the sand originally. The sand game has quite a high technical input compared to the information already given. So whereas other parts of the game can enjoy parallels, the sand game is within reason completely different. As we go through some of these facts, if we gave them to the beginner, then it would blow their minds. So when we're demonstrating our sand shots, it's important to exaggerate each and every move so that some of this information goes into the unconscious. All we need to do in the beginning is remove a certain amount of sand, and it doesn't matter how we move that sand, as long as we move that amount of sand. I'm going to show you that later on by the beach. So let's continue with the facts. My hands moving like that demonstrate a little more of a cup type action than a saucer type action that some people have a vision of. So what I'm saying here, let's be absolutely clear, that the action underneath the ball is more like a cup than it is a saucer. In actual fact, the hands can move through and actually almost scoop underneath through it. So one of those shots that we've been told not to do with the rest of the game actually is quite handy if we're working that blade underneath the sand 2 or 3 inches before, working it up and through and giving it support. Some more technical areas. We need the hands low as possible, so the hands hang very low with this stance. People like Severiano Ballesteros are great exponents. What it encourages is a steeper takeaway, which again is going to encourage a U-type action rather than a saucer type action. The planting of the feet in the ground is something that we're going to do, we're going to physically show, but we're not going to mention. The fact that the club doesn't touch the sand isn't going to be mentioned. It's just going to be shown. The fact that it maybe hovers at the point of entry rather than at the ball isn't going to be shown. The fact that we put the blade down and then take our hold isn't going to be actually mentioned. We will give certain analogies of certain movements. We will have to give them. They've got to be given, but we'll keep them to an absolute minimum. So the main motto of the sand work with the beginners is it's fun. I've even, on the groups, taken out buckets and spades and actually made sandcastles, so we make sure that it's fun, grabbing handfuls of sand. It can be a tremendous rewarding experience, and how we've set out this lesson on the demonstration can also be extremely exciting, as you'll see with the conclusion when we finished at the beach. Thank you.
They're likely to think favourably about sand play, that it is easy. And you have to ask yourself, why is it easy? It's probably the easiest shot in the game of golf. And the reason it's the easiest shot is you don't have to hit the ball. We often see in our game that we only have to catch the ball slightly fat or slightly thin, and it completely ruins the shot. Certainly if you catch it thin, that's going to ruin the bunker shot, but if you catch it fat, the ball's still going to pop out. You're still going to be on the dance floor, and you're still with the potential of getting down in just one more shot. I want to go through how we progress this work. It's a lot of feedback and a lot of getting the customer used to the sand. We're going to suggest that they use the bounce through the sand. This is the point at which we want contact with the sand. What we've drawn here is a couple of lines within the sand. And all we want them to start doing is removing that amount of sand as they make their shot. We're not going to give them any information other than for them to mimic us. So what you would ask them to do, a little demonstration after you've done that first shot, do all of the things again that you would normally do. Target orientation. Make the swing. As you'll see, I've removed the correct amount of sand. And we get them working along there, 6 or 7 shots at a time, just removing the sand, giving them feedback about that sand, giving them feedback when they catch it a little thin, catch it a little fat, catch a little too much, catch a little. Give them feedback or make them aware of exactly what they have to do. So every time they're working along this line, we're adding something else. The second time we go along the line, we're going to add the fact that we're slightly open to the target. Some books recommend quite a lot, just fractionally for the moment. We want to just get this idea that we're going to be open to the target, swinging along our body line. So we've drawn a couple of lines in. And you'll also note that when I take my stance, that my target foot is on one of these lines. Now that's just so that when we eventually the ball ends up in the middle of those two lines, it's slightly forward of the centre of the stance. So line them up. Now we're going to aim the blade. We've got an arrow to where the target is, and the blade is going to be pointed in that direction. If we want it slightly higher, we'd open it even more. And then what we're going to do is from there we're going to put our feet onto the lines. So we've got a path line that the pub's going to follow, and that's our body line. So as we swing with the blade along that line, we again take out that amount of sand. Okay, so we just want to look at it from this angle now. So our target is over there, pointed by the arrow. We are just open about 10 degrees to the target line. The blade is square to the target. Nestle our feet down, take our hold. Now the club's going along that path line for as long as possible, back down that path line as we remain parallel to that line. We're also now going to work on the blade and the fact that we want it to remain open throughout this action. So it's like you're going to put a glass of champagne onto the face of this club, and then you're going to keep that glass of champagne on it as long as possible. This is how it's going to go. We're going to remove again that same amount of sand. Okay, now we're getting close to the exciting part where we're going to introduce the ball to the client. We've made at least 50 passes through the sand, taking them out of sand, having fun, getting great feedback, adding slowly each little piece of information, some very consciously, some unconsciously. Coming to the time now where we're getting close to the ball, so we're going to get them to take a specific amount of sand, giving them a specific amount of feedback. So we've made 3 little puddings here. Beginning to take them into the circular, so it's like even like a pizza or a crumpet, but we've got some little puddings here today. So the beginner will come along, you'll give them feedback of their setup, and they'll come to the first one and they'll attempt to remove this pudding completely. If that's good, you'll move them on to the next one, maybe with just 1 or 2 little pieces, probably just 1, through to the second one. And they're going to take the second one. If that's successful, you move them on to the third one, taking their position, their aim. And out pops the ball. The client didn't even know it was there. Total surprise, their first ever bunker shot has come flying out straight towards the target. How are they going to feel about sand in the future? They're going to be looking forward to the experience every single time. Have fun with this. Sand is fun. Okay, there's a couple more sand shots we should be specifically interested in with a beginner. The fairway bunker shot. Very simply, the fairway bunker shot is reasonably the same to a full shot. Wanting to take it cleanly out of the bunker, probably the biggest advantage that you're going to give yourself there is to reduce massively the leg movement. So it's a very, very stable swing, reduce the leg movement, and you're trying to take it just out of the bottom grooves of the club. Experience is going to help here, knowing when to take that shot. This lesson is by no means a definitive take on sand play. I would certainly advise reading Peltz's Short Game Bible, which delivers information on putting, chipping, pitching and sand play in great detail. There are other books by people that are well known for being great sand players, such as Gary Player, which again, any thoughts that you can get from someone who made themselves such an expert in that field. There are many ways to play many different types of sand shot. We can't go through them, but there are probably 2 main ones that the beginner might face early on. The long bunker shot, and it's simply we're attempting to take the ball cleanly off the top, not taking any sand. The criteria for that is probably going to be as little movement as possible, because any movement might move where we attack the ball. So minimum leg movement, probably 3/4 swing, and we're thinking about taking that ball maybe slightly off the bottom grooves of the club. One more shot that might worry the beginner a little, and that's the plug shot. I'm just going to tap that down a little further. Now there's still 2 ways to get this out. The one way is for strong people, and that would be to take more sand and work the hands harder and faster and just let it pop out. The other way requires a little more technique. Slightly back in the stance, hook the club face. What you're after here is a very steep action and then down, not much follow through probably. It's going to be very difficult to follow through, either right at the ball or just behind the ball. Okay, you can also make this come out reasonably high if necessary. Now we can see that just popping out. Okay, so we thought we'd just give the longer bunker shot a little bit of try. We've got the Mediterranean out there, so we're going to launch this, I think somewhere near Mallorca. So, lightly take the stance, normal setup, everything's normal because you're just hitting a normal bunker shot, you're just thinking of catching it thinner, you're going to take a normal swing, maybe 3/4. Full bunker shot off the sand. Thank you.